Hi everyone, I'm Sally and this is Secret Life of a Seamstress. I hope you're all really well and you're having a good week. Today's video is a bit of a different one, but it's really exciting. This week I've been working with Makerist on the launch of their new app, Makerist AR, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all about it today. So if you are new to my channel is mainly all about sewing with sometimes a little bit of knitting and other crafts thrown in, but mainly sewing. If you are new, I'd love you to consider subscribing and don't forget to give the video a like if you have enjoyed it. So as I say, today's video is in collaboration with Makerist. If you haven't heard of Makerist before, they are an online kind of creative website. They have loads of sewing and knitting patterns, crochet and embroidery patterns too, and lots of other information and tips and tricks and all kinds of sewing chat and things on their blog over on their website. And I will link all of their details down below so that you can pop over and visit them for yourself. So this weekend, Makerist launched a brand new app called Makerist AR. And this is a really exciting app and something new to the world of sewing, or certainly new to me anyway, which they believe could eventually do away with using PDF patterns. So the Makerist AR app allows you to transfer pattern pieces directly onto your fabric just using your smartphone and something called an anchor, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit more detail later on. So if you're not familiar with the term AR, I know I wasn't before I came across this concept. AR stands for augmented reality, which means that by using this app, we can augment reality or bring to life what we'd normally only be able to see in our smartphones. And in this case, that's a pattern piece. So this magic all happens by using something called an anchor. And this is my anchor. I printed it out directly from the app that I'm about to demonstrate to you. This is what the camera will anchor onto, and it will be what will enable us to be able to transfer our pattern pieces directly onto our fabric. You can get your own anchor via the app, and I'm going to show you how to do that shortly. In this video, I'm going to be making the Sew Explicit Patterns Basic Beginners Kimono Tee. It's a really quick and simple pattern to make. It only has 2 pattern pieces. So I thought that would be a really good one to demonstrate to you today. And you can see by the image here what the pattern pieces look like. You wouldn't normally need to print this amount of information out. You could keep it all on your smartphone or your computer. But just so that I had something to show you today, I printed mine out and it has the very short instructions inside too. So I'm now just going to open the app up on my phone and I'm going to screen mirror my phone image so you should be able to see in a bit more detail what I'm looking at on my phone just beside me here. So you can see on my phone screen here, along with all the millions of other apps I have, there's the Makerist AR app icon here. So if I click that, it will take me to the home screen of my own personal Makerist AR account. So everyone's home screen will look a little bit different depending on which patterns, if any, you've purchased in the past, but there are some free ebooks available on here that you can download as well. So it's just important to point out that at the moment the Makerist AR app is only available on iPhone, but Makerist are working as we speak on making this available for Android phones as well. So if you do have an Android phone, don't worry, it won't be too long before you can download this app for yourself too. So in order to be able to see all of your previously bought patterns from Makerist, if you do have any, you will need to have a login account already set up on the Makerist website, and you'll then be given a code that you can use to log into this app, and then it will show you all of the patterns that you've already bought and downloaded from the Makerist website. So everyone's home screen on the app will look slightly different. So once you are all logged in, you should be able to see all of the patterns that you previously bought, any that are available in AR format that is, and all of the free patterns that are available to use as AR patterns. And you can see that here on my screen I've got the beginner friendly kimono tee, which was actually a pattern that I bought and downloaded. There's also a couple of free patterns like a cute little zippered pouch, a cable organiser and a money bag sewing pattern. So there's some really cute little craft projects that you can use via this AR app as well. So since I'm going to be demonstrating the kimono tee today, I'll just click on that pattern and show you what that looks like when you open that pattern on the app. So you can see that there's a picture of the pattern there, there's the sizes overview, and this particular pattern goes from a size 6 all the way up to a size 20. And then there are the 2 pattern pieces. This pattern's a really simple pattern, so there's literally only a back and front piece. So you just need to select your size. I'm going to be making a size 8 today. And then you will see that you can click on the back in a size 8 and a front in size 8. So in order to be able to use the app in the correct way, we will need to use the magic anchor. But if you haven't printed it out and you've got to this stage, you can then click on the I don't have an anchor link there, and it will take you to a link to be able to print out your own anchor, and you can see the picture of the anchor there. So you just need to print it out at the actual size of 100% just to make sure that it comes up in the right size of 15 centimeters squared. So since I already have my anchor printed out and I have my fabric all ready, I'm going to take you over to the table now where I can demonstrate how this app actually works and how the magic happens. So you'll need to hold your phone at around 30 centimeters or 11 inches away from your fabric, and you can either hold it in your hand like I'm doing here, or you can use a tripod if you prefer. So I'm just going to open up the Makerist app, and you can see the lovely kimono t-shirt pattern that I want to make today here. So I'm just going to click on that, and today I've chosen to make a size 8. So I'm just going to click on the back piece because that's what I want to trace out at the moment, and then the phone or the app will prompt me to hold the anchor underneath the phone camera screen. When I hold the anchor underneath the phone's camera, you can see that my pattern piece appears as if by magic in the phone screen. I can move that pattern piece around using the anchor, which you can see here. I'm just moving that little anchor card. So if I click on the 3 dots at the bottom of the screen there, I can actually change the lines of the pattern piece to a better contrast to suit the fabric that I'm using. So I'm going to just go through the colours and show you what they look like, but I think in this particular instance red would be a good colour to go for because that provides a good contrast against my fabric. So you can see that I can see the lines of the pattern much better now against my white fabric. And by moving the anchor around, I can just get my pattern pieces in a better position for marking out my lines. So you can just see here that my anchor is slightly crossing over pattern lines, and I don't want that. So I can actually move the pattern pieces up and down away from the anchor just so that they're in a better position and the anchor isn't touching any part of the pattern anymore, and I can better draw around my pattern pieces. So I don't want the anchor to be crossing over any part of my pattern pieces. So to avoid that, I can actually use the arrows in the bottom of the screen again to move the pattern pieces up and down just to avoid the anchor touching any parts of the pattern lines, but are still remaining in the camera view. So I think that's in the right position now. The anchor isn't touching any of the pattern lines. All of my pattern piece seems to be in a good place with the fold line lining up against the fold of my material. So I should be able to go ahead and transfer my markings onto my fabric now. So all I need to do now is use my phone to guide where I'm marking onto my fabric, and I want to mark a little dot under the red lines that I can see on my phone, which I'll later connect. So you can see that I'm just placing small dots under each curve and line on the pattern piece straight onto my fabric. If you have a straight line at any part of the pattern, you can just mark a dot at the beginning and end of the line and then later connect it with a ruler. Because my pattern piece is quite curved in places, I have actually used quite a few dots here just to make sure that I can connect them accurately later on. I've used a chalk pencil to mark my pattern lines just so that it's easy to remove afterwards. And I did find this fabric quite slippy when I was trying to mark it. It's a kind of very thin viscosey rayon fabric, so I made sure that I weighted it down with quite a lot of pattern weights just to avoid it slipping too much when I was trying to mark out the pattern with one hand, which can be quite tricky sometimes. You would want to use quite a lot of pattern weights if you're using quite a slippy, floaty fabric as I was today. So that's all of my back piece marked out and ready to go, so I can now connect all of the lines that I've just dotted out there, and I'll have myself a fully drawn out back piece. So I'm just connecting all of the dots that I've just drawn out with my chalk piece, just so that the lines are more solid and I can see where I'm cutting a bit more easily. You wouldn't necessarily need to do this. If you had marked a lot of dots, you could just, if you're confident enough, you could just go ahead with your scissors and cut your pattern piece by connecting the dots. But in this instance, I chose to draw out all of the pattern pieces. So I'm just going to go ahead now and cut out my drawn out pattern piece with my rotary cutter. You can of course use scissors if you prefer. So here I am in my finished top, and I have to say I really like this pattern. It was really quick to make. I made this up in under an hour once it was all cut out. It's literally a sew the shoulder seams, sew down the side seams, and then finish the neckline, armholes and hem with bias binding. The pattern does say to use shop bought bias binding, but I actually made my own because I think that looks nicer inside, and also I had a little bit of fabric left over, so I didn't want it to go to waste, and decided to just use what I had to make the bias binding for the neckline and the armholes. I didn't quite have enough for the hem, so I've just overlocked the hem. I can show you there. So I've just literally overlocked the hem and turned it up about 1 centimetre, and yeah, I absolutely love this pattern. I'll just pop in a couple of images so you can see the top on and you can see the length of it and everything. It does come up quite long on me. It's possibly even tunic length, which is actually quite nice, but I think next time I make this I might actually try and crop it a little bit and straighten off the hemline, and I think that would be quite nice too. So yeah, that was my first try at the Makerist AR app, and I'm actually really impressed. It did take me a little while to get the hang of using the anchor and getting the pattern pieces in the right place, but once I'd kind of got the hang of that and where to place the anchor for the best view of the pattern pieces, it all came together quite quickly. So I do think that the AR app is a brilliant concept. It's great for saving time in terms of putting together a PDF pattern. It would save you space in terms of storing patterns. You always obviously would have your pattern pieces on your phone in the app, so there's no danger of losing or misplacing pattern pieces or anything like that. So it really is quite clever, and I've really enjoyed having a go at it and trying to get my teeth into it. And I think that it's something that I'll definitely try again in the future. So I think it's important to point out that Makerist would say as well that this app is a work in progress. They are constantly working on it and improving things, and they're very much open to feedback. So So if you do try it out for yourself, I know that Makerist will welcome your feedback and your comments on how you find the app and anything that you think can be improved. So I'd love to know your thoughts on what I've made today and the app that I've demonstrated. What do you think? Is this something you'd be willing to try? I know initially I had my hesitations about how it would all work and I wondered if it would work, but I have to say I'm really impressed with how it did work, and I think if this takes off it would be a really good thing in terms of saving paper. As I say, it would be great for the environment, and as technology kind of moves forward and evolves, it will open up the world of sewing to even more people. So I hope you've enjoyed this different kind of video today. I'd love to hear your comments below the video as always. Let me know what you think of what I've talked about today. Let me know what you think of my top and let me know if this app is something you'd like to try. So I will link everything that I've talked about today down below, all of Makerist's details, where you can find this app for yourself, where you can find this pattern, and everything else I've talked about will of course be linked in the description below. So I think that's all from me today. Have a lovely day and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!